Good morning, everybody. I'm Tom Applegate. I'm pleased to have the opportunity to participate in today's conference, and it's good to see all of you. I'm the graduate assistant for Suffolk Sustainability under Erica Madison, who's the school's coordinator for sustainability. I'm currently an MBA student. My second semester. I'll be graduating in December. So I'd just like to tell you that my presentation today concentrates on information that I've gathered from a marketing research project that is still ongoing for one of my graduate courses. Just to tell you a little bit more about our program, I manage 6 undergraduates, eco-representatives and eco-ambassadors, and we're doing our best to raise awareness on campus. The title of my presentation is Classroom Meets Campus, Applying Graduate Coursework to Campus Environmental Needs. So I hope you enjoy it. So if anybody knows anything about marketing research, you start with secondary data, which is data that's already been compiled. It's a cheaper way to go, and it's there, so it's easy to find and to use to go on to your primary research. We begin by outlining several of the strengths Suffolk University demonstrated based on the 2011 survey, which was done last year by my predecessor. Some interesting findings. The majority of Suffolk undergraduate and graduate students had a history of recycling prior to attending the university. 54.4% of undergraduates, 58.9% of graduates respectively. This demonstrates not only an awareness, but the capacity and acceptance of sustainable activities prior to students attending the university. The study also highlights certain awareness of environmental initiatives done at the university. One example being that 75.6% of undergraduates and 73.4% of graduate students were familiar with the dual flush toilets throughout campus, which we saw earlier. The study continues to highlight that both undergraduate and graduate students maintain a general interest in various environmentally friendly activities. Some of the top interests include waste reduction and recycling, green buildings, and energy efficiency, electricity consumption efficiency. What can be gathered from this information is Suffolk students are comfortable with what they know in terms of sustainable practices, which can provide significant insight for us managers to strengthen the sustainability program within the university. Some of the weaknesses we found from the secondary data is the school's environmental reputation have very little influence on students' decisions to attend the university, as 53.8% of undergraduates and 57.8% of graduate students suggested that it had no impact on their decision to attend Suffolk University. There also exists a lack of involvement outside of school with environmental groups and sustainable activities. Only 50.7% of undergraduate and merely 40.2% of graduate students are involved in such activities. Furthermore, there is a general disinterest in environmental course studies at the university. Of undergraduates, 68% were not interested, whereas an even higher 79.8% of graduate students were not interested in taking environmental study courses. So moving on to the new data, which we started to compile. I'm the leader of a marketing research team in my marketing research course. I guess that from a selfish standpoint, I brought up sustainability as something we should research, not only to help out my managers, but to help out the university as a whole and to help reduce Suffolk's carbon footprint. So in my primary research, we've done in-depth one-on-one interviews. We've also done a survey on Qualtrics. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that tool, but we've created a survey, sent it to my professor's undergraduate courses, so we got a lot of undergraduate input. And I'm also in the MBA Student Association and the Public Relations Director, so I know a lot of people in the graduate school. I've made a lot of people take this survey, so we got a lot of input so far. So moving on. So for my team, as I said, we've conducted some one-on-one interviews. And the Qualtrics survey is still ongoing, so that's going to be going probably till the end of this month. So some interesting findings. You asked that question before about how many international students go to Emerson. My colleague and I, we've we'd say about 65% of Suffolk University is international.
Right.
So we have a very high population of international students. And some interesting data we found out is the majority of the international students interviewed from countries such as Ivory Coast, Saudi Arabia, Peru, Indonesia, and many others had very little awareness about recycling and sustainability practices. We interviewed 25 students ranging from the ages of 20 and 36 years old. Practically none of them had any information about sustainability prior to enrolling in school at Suffolk. We took from this that none of them actually took into consideration environmental and sustainable practices in their decision to attend Suffolk University. So it's something we thought was a little bit alarming from an international standpoint. Some more information is nearly all participants in the interview process were aware of sustainability practices and events on campus at Suffolk in one way or another. And we kind of pushed them a little more to say, well, how do you know about them? Mainly, we promote free food and drinks, and that's what really gets people to come to our events and activities. We also asked what some of your favorite Suffolk sustainability activities and events were. The most popular answers were recycling, using the refillable water stations on campus, using the dual flush toilets on campus, and using public transportation such as the T, anything MBTA. Moving on. So, moving on more to the survey aspect, I delved into the Qualtrics just to compile some information for this PowerPoint. And Rick, I wanted to apologize for not getting to you sooner, but
you're here now.
Yeah, I'm here. We're presenting. And so this is some of the information from the early aspects of the survey. So this survey has gone, as I said, undergraduates and graduates alike, so it's a mix. So far during the survey, and again, we have till the end of this month, less than half of the students would be interested in taking an environmental studies course or a sustainability practices course. A good aspect of the survey is so far 90%, or right around 90% of the participants recycle on and off campus. We thought that was a great measurement. Another aspect from the survey is we asked what's the #1 most important on-campus aspect that administration should look at to help sustainable practices, and that was so far printing efficiency is the #1. I don't know if you guys know anything about Suffolk, but we have free printing all over campus. And yes, that is good, I guess, from a monetary standpoint for students, undergraduate, but from a sustainable standpoint, it's not good at all. So what we've really tried to instill in the computer labs and library on campus is to at least you have to have front and back printing on all papers printed on campus. This will be later on in the survey, but we really are trying to promote electronic note-taking, electronic paper submittal. What we're finding a lot at Suffolk is, especially in the graduate school, is professors love having people come and print off their PowerPoints, take notes like that. Majority of the professors at Suffolk, and especially in the graduate school, don't allow laptops being used in class because it's a distraction to them. So we've been trying to push administration to kind of put pressure on professors to make students buy ebooks if they need to have a book, or make them submit all their papers online, or allow laptops in class, even if it might be a little bit of a distraction. It's encouraging sustainable practices. Again, in our survey, we asked what the #1 recommendation would be for students to participate in sustainable activities and practices, and the #1 recommendation was to offer incentives to students. The funny thing is, we do offer incentives at Suffolk. The majority of the time, we give $1 off coupons to students we see recycling. We give 15% off all coffee on campus. We see you using a travel mug on campus, so we're using coupons to incentivize students. At every event, we give out free water bottles, we give out travel mugs. We put on coffee breaks, we put on lunch breaks for academic halls and dorm halls to, as I'll go on later with Recyclemania, we rewarded the academic halls and student halls that had the highest recycling rate during the competition, and it just ended at the end of March. We haven't gotten our statistics back to see how we did, but at the end of March we were, I believe, 4th in Boston, right behind Boston College, or right ahead Boston College. But moving on. So another interesting statistic, we had a 1 through 10 scale for students, where 1 being not important and 10 being very important, to see how students feel how important being environmentally friendly is, and the average so far is a 7. So we'd like to get that up higher by raising awareness, get it to at least a 9. So I did a text analysis, the text data analysis, or word count so far in the Qualtrics survey, and the most popular words and the recommendations and suggestions are the words recycle, water, environmental, toilets, and machine. So you can take that what you will, but those are the most important words in the text data analysis.
Say this again?
I did a text data analysis in the Qualtrics survey. In certain questions, we were asked to give suggestions on how to, increase awareness, increase sustainable practices, and the most popular words were cycles number 1, water is number 2, environmental is number 3, toilets is number 4, and machine is number 5. I'm guessing the machine is for the refillable water machines, but that's just an interesting little data analysis we did. So moving on, implementation. How can we implement greater awareness and sustainable activities and practices on campus? We need to have a greater presence in form of students and graduate students being present at admitted student functions and orientations. This summer I will be working with Erica and I'll be attending all incoming student orientations and admitted student functions to just raise awareness to the kids coming in so they get a good foundation when they come to Suffolk. Another thing is, as I mentioned before, we're trying to put pressure on administration to put pressure on these professors to keep all papers and notes electronic, so there's no pressure on students to hand in hard copy of papers. Another aspect is we're going to have more tabling sessions. I just spent 6 hours this past weekend creating a spreadsheet for my undergraduate team and putting it against the schedule of all. In our academic halls, we have a schedule for how you can set up tabling sessions with our Suffolk Sustainability or like the frats on campus, to offer prizes, to just talk to students. And so I just spent 6 hours going through all the academic buildings on campus, going against my students' schedule along with my schedule, and creating a big spreadsheet to hand in to Res Life. And so now we have all these academic halls booked for tabling. So we're going to be really up in the ante with at Suffolk. Friendliness. I've found since I started working as the Suffolk Sustainability Graduate Assistant that students don't like to be scolded for recycling the wrong way or not composting. We've done a lot of trash talking at Suffolk. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but that's at events or functions. Me or my undergraduate team will be right by the receptacles, and we'll just educate people when they come up with their food and plates where everything needs to go. And I've really encouraged my team to smile, to be friendly, because that's where you're going to get the most help in terms of people that usually don't have the awareness of how to recycle or compost. From what I've heard in the past from students, there was some scolding, and kids don't want to be scolded when they're going to throw away their garbage. If you're smiling, you're friendly, it's going to sink in more, and that's something that I've come to find out from just talking to students past and future and present. And another thing to create awareness is we're going to start partnering with more on-campus groups and organizations so we can network, make people more aware, and spread the word of mouth. Word of mouth is another, as a business school, marketing concentration, word of mouth is the most powerful tool in raising awareness. And going against what our survey said, we would like to have at least offerings of environmental studies courses and sustainable practices courses. So we're putting pressure on administration there as well. So some events and next steps. As I just said, we just completed Recyclemania. And as some of you may know, it's a nationwide recycling competition. I think we did very well. We haven't got the official statistics yet from Massachusetts, but I think hopefully we're going to be in the top 5. We also, I'm sure some of you guys at other schools do this too, signage. We have some updated signage where we put signs by every receptacle, every recycling bin, showing pictures of what can and cannot be recycled. This has been a very popular and raised awareness amongst students since in my survey, they said the signage definitely does help. A bike workshop. Yesterday I conducted a bike workshop with Galen Mook. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but we had a luncheon where he talked about safety, riding bikes, how more people should ride bikes, how like 80% of Massachusetts drivers, their drives are less than 2 miles, I'm sorry, less than 2 miles. So we're really trying to put pressure on people to, to create other avenues other than driving your car. Dump and Run is coming up at the end of the semester, where we will be present outside academic buildings for when kids are going home. They can give us, old microwaves, cell phones, printers, anything, and we're gonna get sent to the right avenue, either charity or have it gotten rid of properly. I'm sorry. STARS, as Sarah just talked about from US Amherst, we are in the midst of doing our sustainability tracking assessment rating system. We will be submitting a draft to them by May, and so as Erica said, by the fall we should have. Hopefully, it's going to be gold. So I think we're going to get there. Obviously, I'm going to be finishing this marketing research project and give it to Erica. Hopefully, she can present that to her bosses of the findings, and we can start implementing and raising awareness. As I talked about trash talking, we're very present at all school functions, law school, graduate school, undergraduate alike. We're present at cafes, on campus, just teaching and educating people how to get rid of waste properly. And as I said, continuing to raise awareness. That is the most important thing since I've been the graduate assistant, is just getting people to understand what they need to do to reduce their carbon footprint and to make Suffolk as sustainable as possible. I'm excited for the future. I'm going to be there through the summer and through the fall, so if anyone would like to connect, here's our information. It's Erica Madison, my boss, the Suffolk Sustainability Coordinator's information, and this is my information in my email. Please don't hesitate to contact me anytime, and I thank you for your attention, and I'm open to any questions.
Well, that was a lot more than the title "Dump and Run" suggested.
Yeah.
So, for which I'm glad.
Yeah. Yes.
So you're graduating in December?
Right.
You're going to have an MBA?
Right.
Are you interviewing?
I'm in the process.
I bet you are. Has this...
This has opened many doors for me.
Say more.
What's that?
Can you say more? Because you're speaking to the value proposition now of many of the students here working within the sustainability sphere, and looking for jobs, wicked tightness in the economy. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yep, I would say sustainability and green jobs are going to be the hot trend. I've already gotten contacted by Greener U, which is a consultant for higher education institutions that give them plans on how to. They go through the whole school, look at everything, green buildings or toilets, everything, electricity, everything, and they give them a consulting plan on how to make their school more sustainable. I've also got an interview lined up with Big Belly Solar garbage. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that in Boston. All over Boston, there's these solar trash what's the word I'm looking for? Trash. Receptacles, where they, using the solar power, they actually compact them. Thank you. So I have an interview with them lined up. But other than that, that's it so far. Actually, the managing director at JP Morgan is a huge proponent of sustainability. His son runs a company. He went to Yale. He started a company. I forget the name of it, but they take old BlackBerries and cell phones and they reuse them. And I guess they made $3 million in profits last year. So this is, green jobs are, you see as getting on a roll as a hot trend. So I mean, that's my experience thus far.
A quick question on the dump and run.
Yep.
The times of year where you do the collection and where you store it, and how do the students maybe get their hands on it when they come back?
Well, they're donating their they're not like, we're not storing it for them. They're donating.
And then you're sending it out?
We're sending it out. We've had some trouble getting some charitable companies to come pick up the stuff.
Have you evaluated keeping it till the next semester so that when the next crew comes in that they might be able to reuse it?
There has actually I've never taken part in it. I've just started in January, so I haven't taken part in dump and run before. My ACO ambassadors have said that one of the arguments is should we donate it all, or should we keep it for storage and hold it for somebody to reuse? So that's something that me and my team and Erica and the facilities and planning department, we need to finalize. That's a good question.
It's probably easier to donate it.
Right, it is easier to donate just because it costs a little money to store everything, and nobody wants to watch it. But
this is something the two of you have a common interest in. You're so close to each other.
It's in colleges, you just see that cycle. You see that cycle of the dump, and the run. And then they come back and everybody wants to buy the stuff, right?
Talk to me. We started a thrift store student project, student run, student job, student managed, making $20,000 a year.
Thank you so much, Tom.
Thank you, Greg.
That's great.
Thank you for having me. So before I get started, I kind of want to take a toll or a tally. How many of you in the audience enjoy going to the gas station and paying $3.80 for gasoline? All right, so we're all on the same page. That was kind of what led me towards this project. I didn't like going to the gas station and feeling helpless. Like there's nothing that I can do that influence this price on this fuel, and this fuel is something that I need to use every single day. And I just see it going up and up and up. And then when the fuel price goes up, normally you see the commodities market rise as well. I mean, everything that involves transportation is going to increase if the fuel price for transportation increases. So that led me to try to decide on this project. So, to give you an idea of what I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to go over what we do at Worcester State. As far as biodiesel production, I'll give you a couple of examples of major players in the field, one on the eastern seaboard, one on the western seaboard. I'll focus in on one sustainable method that kind of touches base on a couple of things that have been said already, and it really has potential to change the way that we do business with fuel in America today. And it's readily available, and implementation would be very easy to get it into what we're wanting to do with, I guess, kind of offsetting our dependency on foreign oil. Then I'll go into the government support and how we can continue to do what we're doing right here, and that's raising public awareness. So, to begin, right here is pretty much our setup that we have at Worcester State College. You can see the large tank in the center. It's actually kind of a funny story. I kind of fell into this and got really lucky that I was at Worcester State, because this processing unit actually cost about $3,000, and it was purchased from a vendor that came to a sustainability fair, and he was a residential biodiesel producer. Like, this guy basically made it in his garage. So it was really like a stroke of luck that they actually obtained this, because the initial startup cost would have had to have purchased this, or had the school purchase this, which it would have, then you get into logistics and everything kind of slows down, gets bogged down with that. So the processor is residential. So it's designed for the layman. It's designed for someone who's not a chemistry major like me or anybody else. That's extremely boring, but it's designed for someone that can do this in their garage. So what we had to do at the college was figure out how we're going to get this to work, where we can store this material, like what are the logistics of everything in the operation, and what's going to be needed done for like safety and where can we actually like do with the waste products, and all of that had to come into play. So we had to decide on feedstock choice, which we chose waste vegetable oil because it's readily available. The college has a huge store of it. We average, I think, 200 gallons a month for waste vegetable oil from the cafeteria. And they were just basically paying a company to come and take it away. So I was like, well, why don't you just stop paying them and then I'll make fuel from it, So then you get kind of more bang for your buck from the oil, and then you also get something you can use and some of the equipment that you have on campus here. So by collecting it, we just basically pump it out of the tank that it's holding in the student center, and then tote it over in smaller amounts into that large black container that you see there. And we just kind of keep it there, stored about 55 gallons, and we do batches of however much that people want to do, about maybe 10 gallons, 5 gallons. It doesn't matter. You can do a size up to the capacity limit, which is, I think, 60 gallons for that particular processor. Now, the actual process is really, really simple when you think of the chemistry that's involved. You're taking waste vegetable oil, which is relatively non-toxic. I mean, it's dirty, it's smelly, it smells like French fries. And you're adding sodium hydroxide, which is lye, essentially, that you can find in any gardening store. And then you're adding methanol, which is just alcohol. Now, people are, oh, where am I going to get methanol? Well, if you go to a racetrack, or if you live next to a racetrack or a drag track, you can get methanol fuel from that area because they run those in their high-performance machines. So you can actually, get this without having a license or anything like that. You can just pretty much go, or order it offline. That's probably the best thing to do. I think you can order up to 55 gallons as a residential person without having like a need for any type of safety or any kind of certification to do that. So basically what you do is you just add all those three components together, turn this processor on, let it run for a couple of hours, and then turn it off, and it basically separates itself. The biodiesel is less dense than the glycerol that is formed from the byproduct of the reaction. So that sinks to the bottom of the cone, you drain that off, and the glycerol can either be put into the neutralization system. You can't really see it in this room, but we've actually positioned our system to be right on top of where all the sinks that come from the labs in the science building go into a neutralization tank, and then that gets neutralized before it goes back into the water supply. So, because when you have the glycerol byproduct that's left over, it actually has a certain basic content to it, so it needs to be neutralized before you can put it back into the sewer system. And that's, you can't see it, but it goes kind of like right through the floor into this giant tank that's underneath that whole setup that's right there. And then once you do that and take care of that, you have your finished biodiesel. And the biodiesel is actually an amazing thing. It's 100% biodegradable. That means that if you dumped biodiesel on the ground, within 3 weeks, all of it would be gone. And there would be no microbial death from that spill. Now that's an amazing thing because gasoline, we know, is highly toxic, and if you spill it on yourself, it's kind of bad. You can actually ingest biodiesel up to, I think, a liter without dying, which is pretty bad. One of the other things that biodiesel is used for is with wastewater treatment plants, they actually use it to clean their piping. They send it through, and it basically, it's relatively non-polar, so it dissolves a lot of the organic matter that's in the piping, and it's biodegradable, so they don't have to worry about it or collect it afterwards. They just dump it in, it cleans the stuff out, and they just let it go. It's actually food for a lot of microbial organisms, which is actually really, really cool. So you're probably wondering why I chose biodiesel. Well, I chose biodiesel because it was easy to make, we could do it on campus, it was biodegradable, the system was pretty much non-hazardous, and it can be substituted readily into the entire transportation industry that we know today, because biodiesel can be run in any diesel engine on the planet without any modification whatsoever. The only modification that you need to make is when you run in different climates and colder temperatures. You have to heat the biodiesel or else it will congeal and then you can't run it as fuel. But virtually everything that we wear or use today is made by products that need to be transported on whatever vessels that have these, engines that run diesel. So that was a big thing that pushed me forward. Now, obviously, this is kind of a small-scale operation. We're not really, producing a large volume, and you really can't because you can only store biodiesel for about 6 months before it goes bad. So, to give you an idea of what's going on in the larger picture, we're going to look at a company called HeroBX. And HeroBX is one of the largest producers of biodiesel in the country. They're actually located in Erie, Pennsylvania, which is really close to this region. So we have the potential to incorporate this fuel, pretty readily. And a lot of people might think that, oh, biodiesel, you have to use food crops like soybeans or something like that in order to make the fuel. But that's not true. You can use soybeans, yes, but you can also use a multitude of different other things. And that's what HeroBX has done. They've actually, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, they boasted that they can actually produce this fuel from, I think it was 14 different feedstocks that were aside from using any type of food crop, which is pretty amazing. And the other good thing is that they are an ASTM testing facility. So before you can run any type of fuel commercially, you have to have it tested. And the good thing about this is that if anyone in the New England area wants to kind of open up their own producing facility, they can send their samples to this company and be approved relatively shortly, because the shipping time is what really kind of bogs down the testing process. So that's a huge benefit that we have sitting right here in our region, and they can actually, I think their capacity is around 45 million gallons a year they can make, which is a pretty big number. It makes a pretty big dent in the actual consumption of this country. This country actually consumes about 20 million barrels of oil a day, and that's constant, 365 days a year. You can do the math. It's a huge number, huge number. So that's one company on the eastern seaboard that kind of has tackled the issue of, well, what do we do for alternative fuel? The next company that I'm going to talk about is Solazem. They're located in California, and they actually are partnered with the Department of Defense. So I don't know why, but the military always gets the coolest stuff. They get like night vision goggles, they get all kinds of exoskeleton suits, they can run around. You name it, they've got it. They've also got alternative fuel. I think it's the Navy is the largest user. They actually run, a lot of the naval vessels have to run biodiesel, which is good, because if there's any type of spill or if you blow the ship up, all that fuel won't leak into the environment and really pollute anything. So that's cool. If the ship gets blown up, it's not that big a deal, except for we lost out on a bunch of money. So, whoa. And one thing that you probably have read in this picture right here, Solazem actually derived a fuel from algae. Now, algae-based oil is an amazing thing, because as far as cultivation of algae can double its cell mass within a number of hours. So you can kind of perceive that if you had a pond that was basically going through the stages of eutrophication, where the algae was kind of depleting the oxygen content and just taking over, well, you could essentially harvest that algae and make fuel from it. So, and this is where kind of ties into the wastewater treatment a little bit. The Solazem company actually did a survey, and they found that over the entire United States, there's I think 2,000 wastewater treatment plants that can be fitted with holding tanks. And this is kind of an idea of what it's going to look like. That over there is basically like a man-made pond. It's like a small holding tank, and what you can see, that green layer there, that's the algae. Now, normally algae by natural algae is only about 5 to 10% oil by cell mass. And through the use of biotechnology, Solazem has actually been able to, I guess, engineer a type of algae that is greater than 80% oil by cell mass. So that greatly, increases the yield potential for this feedstock source. And they did that study, so 2,000 cities in the country have wastewater treatment plants that are actually capable of having this type of addition done to them. And the good thing is that these companies don't have to do anything to their actual plants. All they have to do is attach another holding bay and some piping. That's pretty much it. There's no infrastructure change whatsoever to their actual methodologies. So this is, this is awesome. This fuel, and the thing that boggles my mind is this is not a new idea. This is not a new idea at all. It was in 1970, I think, or 1972, that Jimmy Carter partitioned the Aquatic Species Act, which calculated that in a space the size of about 15% of the Sonoran Desert, they could grow enough algae to fuel the entire country during that time period. But think about that. No more foreign oil. You know, think about it. It's amazing why this hasn't been done, or why it's not being done on a larger scale, and why the military is the only one that gets to use it. You know. So this is my favorite sustainable method because, I mean, what else am I going to say? You know? This is so sensible and so important for us to understand that this can be done, and this can be done now. And we were just listening to, I think it was the president, and I think he's not here now, but you know, it's not going to happen from the top down. It's going to happen from the bottom up. So it's raising awareness, doing what we're doing right here, right now. This is what we need to do in order to get these ideas out there and get them into our society. So the hardest part is the legislation. For a long time, I think over the last decade or so, there was a period of like 8 years where there wasn't any legislation supporting alternative fuels. But just recently, I think it was December 17th, 2010, Barack Obama signed the biodiesel blenders tax credit. And that now brings biodiesel into the competitive market for fuel as an alternative fuel. So this right now, this time period that we're in, because this legislation isn't going to last forever also. So we need to act now. We need to do something or raise some type of awareness that's going to get this ball rolling, and rolling faster than it's rolling right now, which is really, really slow. And one of the biggest problems is if we rely on the federal government to try to incorporate this into the society, it's going to take a lot longer. So I want to try to emphasize on going to the local governments, state governments, because if the state can do something and the federal government doesn't have to focus on that, then that's something that we can create jobs with. We can focus in on the locality of what we're trying to do, and that's a huge benefit to the economy. So we need to stress that this is very important and this needs to be done. The only obstacle that really I can see is public awareness. Nobody knows about this. Like, by a show of hands, how many people knew that this was going on about changing one person, 2, 3 people? And so we got a sustainability director. And you're a sustainability director as well, or are you?
I'm the organizer of this event.
Okay, and not to be kind of fun or anything, but they're in the upper generation, or the generation that is kind of handing down the torch. So it's really we got to raise awareness along with the young people. That's where we need to focus. Now, how do we do that? Well, essentially what we're doing is trying to save the Earth. But we're trying to save the Earth from us, essentially. And people think that, oh, if we vote for a certain legislator, if we vote for this person, we vote for that person, they'll make a change. But it's really not happening. If you think about it, how many people here have a couple bucks in their pocket? A few bucks in your pocket? Those are votes. When you decide to go buy something, you're approving of the company's methods, you're approving of the products, the testing, the materials that they use, where they dump their waste, and all of that stuff. You need to factor that into what you're buying and where you're buying it from. That's the biggest thing, is people know that money is important, but they don't know what direction money can go into to make things change. And that's where we kind of are struggling with right now, and that's raising awareness around the campus that we're working with, and then also within the community. So hopefully, this kind of opened your eyes a little bit on what's possible with biofuel, and then maybe you'll talk to a few people outside of this, and let's get this growing. So thank you very much.
When I said I knew about this, I didn't know everything you had to say. I learned a lot. We have time, just a minute for questions.
Did you run into any problems with your environmental health and safety or risk managers for your biodiesel setup? Because it's both flammable and the methanol is quite toxic.
Right. The good thing about where we actually have it set up is we have it set up right next to the room that houses our hazardous chemicals. So we have methanol storage right next to where that room is. So it's not really like we store the methanol in that room, we pull it out as needed. So just like you're going through the OSHA standards, you sign out a certain volume, and then you take the proper precautions as you implement that. And then one of the good things about having that residential processor and where it was purchased from, it's actually designed so that Nothing is, I guess, out in the open. It's all confined within that processing unit. Like the sodium hydroxide goes into a container, methanol stays in a container, goes into that container where that is, and it all mixes together. You don't really have to actually touch anything. And it's, that was the reason why we kind of got approved so quickly, is because of that actual aspect. Like I said, it was a huge stroke of luck.
One quick thing for the colleges that are in Massachusetts that don't have the space to actually process their own biodiesel. At LaSalle, what we do is we send our used cooking oil to Mass Biofuel. They make bioheat, and we donate that bioheat to Pine Street Inn to heat the Pine Street Inn Centerville homes. So they have that ability to actually create a donation of the biofuel to local nonprofits. So just another alternative for you.
Mark Fournier of LaSalle College.
Just a quick question. I think I missed what you do with it.
Thank you.
What's your top use of your output?
Oh, of the output for the biodiesel? Well, right now it's kind of, we're working on getting it incorporated into like the facilities department and all the groundskeeping equipment that they use. What we're running into now is the issue of actual warranty. If certain volumes of biodiesel can be used, you can run, I think, up to 20% without voiding any warranties. But if you have a brand new vehicle or a brand new piece of equipment, no biodiesel whatsoever is what they say, or else it voids the initial warranty. So that's the major issue that we're running into as far as running it in application like that. But as far as for people who have their own cars, like old Mercedes, like you can run it in that fine, as long as the warranty has already run itself through, or if you get approval from the manufacturer. And that's the biggest problem. But we incorporate that. And we have an old tractor that we use that's kind of what we use for the fuel.
And that's a good reason to keep up the pressure on the federal level as well as the state. One last.
I wanted to make a quick resource comment and then a politics comment. The first is that Dickinson College and Messiah College have a guide on implementing biodiesel for small liberal arts schools. If you have no large engineering infrastructure or are thinking about health and safety standards, there's a guide out there for implementing a small-scale biodiesel production at a small college. The second is a comment about ending dependence on foreign oil. And the big debate around foreign oil right now often comes back to transition fuel being natural gas and hydraulic fracturing in Pennsylvania, New York, and the greater Northeast region, and then also the Keystone Pipeline. So you're saying it's important for us to be talking about this and spreading awareness within college students and across colleges, but there's also a huge place for this type of alternative viewpoint about what transition technology or what transition fuel could really look like in a current political debate about other transition fuels that we're saying are more viable options for ending dependence on foreign oil. This is a much more sustainable and safe option, certainly than hydraulic fracturing, and absolutely more so than the Keystone Pipeline.
It's absolutely true. When you see lists of alternatives, you sometimes see algae mentioned, not always, and you rarely see it as something that's at hand. It's something in the future.
I forgot to mention, but the actual algae oil that they make from algae can be used to substitute in every known manufacturing process that we have today. So every plastics, every type of materials that we have can be substituted with this oil. So I mean, essentially, you can change your dependence on the commodities market, and it's there. It's all there. It just people need to know about it. That's the main thing.
And then, how are you going to deal with the disruption of all those business plans? Sorry. All right, we've got to move on. Thank you so much.
Okay, so Rick gave me a really good introduction. I'm Narika Murphy. I'm from Boston University. I'm a former student, and I'm graduating this year with a degree in energy and environmental analysis. And I also work part-time as an intern for the sustainability office under Dennis Carlberg. And so I am familiar with our university's sustainability initiatives. And I want to talk today about, let me get my notes out so I'm more organized. I want to talk today about an approach to not just working in the traditional model of a top-down approach to sustainability, in which the university provides funding to the sustainability office, who then prioritizes programs with that funding, but instead involving all of these peripheral activities. So, initiatives that are spontaneous and independent. Because so this would be the traditional model, and this is my new model. A constant challenge for sustainability offices is that we have limited resources and an infinite amount of ideas and an infinite amount of enthusiasm, as we've seen from the people here today. And with that comes dependency on university funding, which in itself is not sustainable. And in order to make our sustainability initiatives sustainable, we need to expand the top-down approach to include spontaneous and independent initiatives that are extremely valuable. They can expand the reach with very little investment, so you have a very limited amount of funds, and you can utilize students and people who are already doing research without expending your own money. Increase awareness for your programs amongst people who are already interested, and then reach out through them to people who have not yet been brought into this circle of sustainably minded people. And it helps create behavior change. So as an increase in awareness occurs, people are much more, I'm blanking on words. Got up at 4:30 today to be here, so that's probably why. As awareness increases, people are much more receptive to your initiatives. They start hearing about it, they become more familiar with it, and just like any idea, people who are initially maybe a little skeptical or less willing to participate will be a lot more willing to participate. So how do we do this? Spontaneous initiatives often fly under the radar because we can engage these bigger ideas. So I'm talking about waste reduction and energy use, which are the things that we traditionally focus on. But spontaneous initiatives, as I said, have really great impacts. And so how do we do this? Identify, engage, and strengthen. So find out what people are already doing on your campuses and then help them do it better. This includes providing support in terms of recognition, in terms of networking, and I'm going to give 3 examples today. Obviously, the kinds of initiatives that are going on at different universities are extremely different, and so it's hard for me to say exactly what kind of things we should be getting involved with from the top level and who we should be reaching out to. But I'm going to give 3 examples that I think apply in general to most universities and that are good examples. So the first one is the Carbon Rally campaign, and this is something that Boston University is doing and that I've helped Dennis to run. And so the Carbon Rally campaign is an online initiative, very similar to social media and social networking. And basically it's a program that pairs up with monthly challenges that our office provides to the university, and people can go online, join the challenge, and accept challenges like using a reusable bottle, using a reusable bag, those sorts of things. And every month we send out 1 email so people aren't getting annoyed by an overwhelming number of emails. And they can go in and adopt the challenge, and then they can also sign up for things that fit into their own lifestyle. So you're not forcing people to do things that they can or don't want to do, but you're providing them with the ability to expand their horizons, to become more familiar, not only in terms of self-awareness and realizing how their behavior impacts the environment, but also things that are a little bit more difficult to change, and also introducing them to really easy ways to change. And the reason that this is a really good example of a sustainable initiative is, first of all, that we have liaisons in departments who are volunteers. So it's pretty much run by the people who are participating in it. The liaisons put up posters in their offices. They reach out to people in their offices and help them to join this challenge online, which is really easy to do. And then the behaviors themselves are sustainable, so people become more self-aware. They take these ideas home, they share it with their families. If you're packing a zero-waste lunch for the month, I mean, you've committed to that, you're probably doing it for your kids too. You're probably encouraging your roommates to do it. So it's, I think, a really, really good example of a sustainable initiative, and one that does not require much funding from Boston University. Another good example that's similar to Carbon Rally would be the sustainability Facebook pages, Twitter accounts. You can hire someone to do it. You can also get interns to do it. You can also get students to do it. And there's a lot of students who want to learn about search engine optimization, those types of things. So this is my second example, and that's research. The person you see here is Nathan Phillips. He's a professor at Boston University, and he is doing really, really interesting research on natural gas pipelines. So Boston natural gas infrastructure is incredibly old. It's one of the oldest in the nation, but pretty much all of our natural gas pipelines are old. And I did a research project with him this semester, and just driving around Brookline, every single block we hit a natural gas leak. Many of them were explosive, and not only is that a health and safety issue, but it's also a huge amount of money. When it comes down to the economics, you're paying for that as ratepayers. So you might not see it in your bill, wasted natural gas, but you are paying for it, it's built in. And it's a huge, huge amount of waste. And the really great thing that Nathan is doing is that he's bringing this into the public's eye. He's raising awareness, and this is something that the university didn't have to pay for, it didn't have to fund. Nathan is doing it as his own research, and it's in itself sustainable because he's gotten really good press. And that's something that sustainability offices can help do. They can reach out to professors, researchers, student groups who are already doing things on campus and help provide them with press, help provide them with visibility, and then that in itself becomes an added value, because now Nathan, with this press, Nathan has received more press, and he's received a lot of students coming to him asking, can I do a directed study? And we have tons of fascinating research going on in our department, and I don't know of any other professor who has had as much success recruiting students to help. He meets every Wednesday with a room of at least 15 students who are doing independent projects related to natural gas, and that's because of the great press that he received and the visibility, which is a really, really easy thing to provide our researchers with. I'm abandoning these. I'm doing better without them. So the third example is student groups. This one is really, really obvious, but it's really difficult sometimes, I think, at least for our office, to work with student groups because they have their own initiatives and their own priorities. But there are ways to, A, enable them to do a really great job, and B, to ask them to give something back and to help direct attention towards your own programs. So on the Facebook page, I can tell you that I was in charge of it. I've been in charge of it for, I believe, 2 years now, since our full-time communications person left. And at first, I was just posting things that interested me, things from the New York Times, things from Tree Hugger. And recently, I realized that I should be posting things that engage each of these groups. And so each day of the week, I now go to one of the main student organizations on campus, one of their Facebook pages, and I find out what they're doing, what they're interested in. And I'll make a comment on their page, and then I'll post something that's directly related to that so that it brings them to our page. And this has increased users and visibility a lot for us, and it's so easy. I'm not doing anything extra. I'm not spending any extra time other than what I normally would, but it's involving people way more because I'm involving the people who are already interested in sustainability initiatives, and then they're talking about it. And every time I do it, I remind them that we have 1,000 followers. And slowly they've started posting on our Facebook page. So I no longer have to reach out, which is really, really great. But getting back to this organization, some of you might be familiar with it. It's the MIT Energy Club, and they run a number of really successful events every year. I volunteered for the conference this semester, and it's a huge success. The showcase event alone brings in over 1,500 people from a public audience, and the conference itself brings even more than that. And it's completely student run. And because it's been so successful, and because there's a really, really high level of participation and also enthusiasm for it, they can do things at a level that I think most student groups don't, but any student group could, which is really phenomenal. So the conference just ended, and I got an email a week right after asking for students to apply to be the director for next year. And it's a really rigorous process, and they actually take applications, and then they do interviews, but it's fantastic. And people fly in from all over the country to attend this, and like I said, it's completely student run. One of the technologies that we had visit this year was a 30-foot flying wind turbine from Makani Power in California, And the conference was so valuable to them that I was able to get them here, and they're startups, so they don't have funding, but I was able to get them to come all the way to Boston and bring this 30-foot installation to show, which is amazing. And sustainability offices can help enable that. They can help provide leadership, they can help reach out to the types of students that you want leading these organizations, and providing the funding to help them create events like this. And even if you don't have the funding, again, visibility is key. So just a reminder, I really think that in order to make sustainability initiatives sustainable, we need to not only focus on a top-down approach, but really focus on independent initiatives, things that are happening outside of our direct focus plane, and incorporate them as much as possible. And a lot of that comes from asking student groups and asking researchers what they want and what you can do for them. And I think that that will have a huge impact. So thank you very much.